Good morning and welcome to another session of K2's Road to Excellence with Excel Series Part 18 and our partner Intuit. This is Alan Salmon and I'm pleased again that so many of you are with me this morning or this afternoon depending on where you're located. A little bit of admin before we get started. My good friend Marilyn Benninger is backing me up today and she is your go-to person for technical issues and for questions, which I'll get to in a moment. Your microphones are muted for obvious reasons. You're welcome to take notes, but be aware that if you're new, that within 10 days of today, you will receive a package that will include the webinar recording, my extensive teaching notes, my teaching files, the answers to all of your questions, and the CPD certificate. You ask questions and you can ask as many as you like in the chat window. After the webinar, Marilyn will send Tom and I all of the questions. We'll provide the answers and that will be in your package. Again, if you're new, when it comes to CPD certificates, 4 times today, Marilyn is going to be stopping us and putting up a polling question. This is a multiple choice question, usually 4 possible answers, and you don't have to get the answer correct. What you do have to do is click on one of the possible answers and click on the whatever the button is in the right-hand corner. That records your attendance. And if you answer 3 of the polling questions, you will get a CPD certificate for 1 verifiable CPD. If you don't, it'll be non-verifiable. And on that note, let's move to today's topic. Interesting one, dealing, of course, with Excel macros. Marilyn, let's go to the first polling question.
Absolutely, Alan, my pleasure. Greetings, everyone. Your screen should have now turned blue and you're faced with a question about Excel macros. There are 5 possible answers. Have you ever created an Excel recorded macro? Have you had difficulty creating an Excel recorded macro? Maybe do you know the difference between an absolute and a relative macro? Have you ever created a VBA macro? Or possibly none of the above? And that's what brings you to us here today. We keep our polls open until we see 85% response, and we're just there now. So I'll be counting you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm closing the poll now, and I'll share the results with you, Alan.
The key question for me, Marilyn, was the middle one, know the difference between an absolute and relative macro, and that's one of the things that I will cover. The 10% of you that are working in VBA, I won't be going there today other than to show everybody what a recorded macro looks like behind the scenes. And the top 2 numbers don't surprise me. So let's get started. And let's get started this way. I have already created a macro, recorded macro on here, and I'm going to show you the magic of doing it. So I'm going to go to the View menu, and over here we have a macro drop-down. And when I click on it, View Macros. And you'll notice in the window there are 3 or 4 macros here. The key one is the Format macro. So I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click on 1 and watch the magic. So just to bring you into the loop as to what happened, notice Carl's Computer Shop, profit and loss statement, some stuff here, and percentage of income for January. But now, after the macro's done, we've centered the column, we've changed it to an income statement, we changed this And notice that we have a new column here, percentage of the income for this month and percentage of the income for January. Magic? Yes. So now I can give you the technical definition of what a macro is. It's a series of commands and instructions stored in a computer program that allows users to automate tasks according to the rules and parameters contained in that computer program. Now, I'm going to make an age comment. Some of you, well, since I know some of you, I know that back in the 80s, you worked in Lotus 1-2-3 the way I did. And macros were pretty easy in those days because you just recorded the keystrokes, /this, /that, /this, /that, and we ran it. And the first couple of versions of Excel, Microsoft treated it the same way. And then, I can't remember the date, it's many years ago, they started using Visual Basic for Applications, which is what VBA stands for. And that's a programming language. And the reason they did that is it made it possible to create macros in not only Excel, but in Word and PowerPoint, etc. So with that bit of an introduction, let's move on to creating our first macro. What we have here on the screen in front of you is an income or a profit and loss statement. Where did it come from? It was exported from an accounting program. And it doesn't matter which accounting program, because every accounting program will let you export it. But I don't like this. So every month I have to go in here, delete this, add the column, change the formatting. And that's a pain. And you know my comment, that's too much work. So what we're going to do is record all of those steps, and then we can play it back in the stroke of an eye or whatever that is. So to get started, very simple. I go back to the View menu, and I go to Macros, and I go to Record a Macro. And it wants a name. So in Marilyn's honor, we'll call it Marilyn. Now, I'm going to save it in this workbook, and I'm not going to use a control shortcut key, and I never do, and I'll explain that as we get farther into the webinar. So I'm going to click on OK. Now understand that the camera is on. It will now record everything that I do, good, bad, or indifferent. Well, I want to change this to revenue, so we'll go over here and type. I want to get rid of this, so that's a simple delete. And I need $ here, so back to the home menu, back to the accounting $. These I want to change to no $, but the accounting format. And then finally down below, I need $signs here. Well, that was pretty simple. And now we need to make a couple of other changes. We're going to change this to revenue. We're going to change this to total cost of goods sold. Now comes, not tricky, but it took me a while to figure that out. I need percentage of income right there. So I'm going to insert 2 columns. So there's room for it. And there we go. So I'm cutting that. And now I'll go Control V, and there we go. However, I need a percentage here. And that's really easy because this time I just copy and I paste. And notice, voila, the calculation here, 42% of that, 34% of that. And now I got to do something that once in a while I've forgotten to do. I'd be curious if the advanced people that are watching me have done that. And that is forget to go here and stop recording. And when you finally do that and run the macro, it's an interesting scenario on your screen. So there we go. So let's go back here. Let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. So let's review what we did. We turned on the macro recording. We gave it a name. We made all the changes that we needed to and stopped the macro and then recording and then ran it. And now every month I can run that macro. However, there are a couple of issues there, so I want to go on to the next one, which is this. And now I want to distinguish between an absolute macro and a relative macro. And I got to tell you, it took me a while to figure this out. So I'm going to duplicate this over here, and I'm not going to copy it because I want to see the keystrokes. So we're going to View, and we're going to Macro, and we're going to record a macro. And this time, I'll call it Alan, and go. Now, before I click on OK, I want you to look down here. I've told you that I don't use shortcut keys, and you'll see that in about 9 minutes. Look now, store macro where? This workbook. What are my choices? A new workbook, and I've never done one there, or my personal macro workbook. So the two choices are personal macro workbook and this workbook. What's the difference? We're going to save it in this workbook, which means it will only run in this workbook, or it'll run in any workbook if this workbook is open. Is that confusing? I'll say it again. It will run in this workbook or any other workbook if this workbook with the macro in it is open. Now, what happens if we save it in your personal macro workbook? That gets saved under C:\users d:\. And that means that it'll run in any workbook. So let's go down to this workbook and click on OK. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to type K2 Enterprises. $12.50 Southwest. By the way, this is the address for our U.S. partner in Louisiana. And if you've been to New Orleans, you flew over Lake Pontchartrain, which is just north of New Orleans. And that's where, on the north side, where Hammond is. All right. And I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to end the macro. Stop recording. I'm going to delete this, and I want the macro to appear here. So I go to macro, I go to view macro, and I go to Alan, and I run it. Watch what happens. Now, it happened because of something, and I've got to go back and make a change to my screen, and you'll understand why it worked the way it did. So we've been working with macros under the View menu. But as you get better with recorded macros, you really should work under another tab. And that tab is the Developer tab. So I right mouse click, change the ribbon, and there's the Developer tab. And I click OK, and there's the Developer tab there. Now, why do I want to work there? Because of this. You notice that Use Relative Reference is highlighted. That means it was selected before I recorded the macro. So let's do this again and run the macro. And here the tab to find your macros is second from the left. So making it easy this time, I'm going to quickly copy this and put it there. Actually, I'm going to start the macro and put it there. And let's go to the Developer tab. We've got Use Relative Reference, record the macro, and I would go through the steps. I'm not going to do that because it's already been recorded. So I'm going to go to Macros. I'm going to go to Relative Referencing and watch what happens. It put it right on top. Now let's go down here and let's run the macro. So do you notice what's happening as I do this? We'll do it one more time. It is putting the macro where my cursor is, and that's why it's called relative. Now, let's do another one, and I need to turn off this before I do it. So I've turned that off. And so you're not confused, let's get rid of these. And we'll copy this to here as if I had recorded the macro and put it there. There we go. So let's pretend that I turned on the macro, gave it a name, and typed all that in. And then I delete this, and I put my cursor here. And I go and run it. And this one's called Absolute. So there it is. Now notice where my cursor is and notice where the macro ends up. So the difference between absolute and relative is if it's absolute, meaning this use relative reference isn't turned on, it will always repeat the macro where it was recorded. If this is turned on before we record the macro, then I can put it anywhere I like, and the choice is up to you. All right, let's move on. Again, in the interest of time, I've recorded a macro here. And remember what the steps are. I can either go to View, Macro, View Macros, and run it. But that brings up my favorite line. That is too much work. So what I'm going to show you is how to get a little button up here in your Quick Access toolbar that will run the macro. Well, obviously the first step then is to customize the Quick Access toolbar. And for those of you who have done it, you have put things like autosave, undo, and redo on your Quick Access toolbar. But if you click here on macros, you get a pile of macros. And notice down here, format. Microsoft is smart enough to know that that is my format macro. So I merely add it and click on OK. And notice the button that I get, the three thingies right there. And if you notice, when I did go to the Quick Access toolbar, customize the Quick Access toolbar, go here to macros, and we got all of these macros that I could have available. They're already done. I have yet to find any of these that really turn me on. But as I told you before, Microsoft identified that I do have a macro called format, and I put it over there, and it's got that triangle. Well, I don't like that. So I click on modify, and I got a bunch of of buttons that I could use. So where am I going to go? Well, how about a happy face? Click on OK. And notice that I get the happy face and format. So there's my happy face. And bingo. Or sorry, it ran the macro. Just one more quick thing that I want to show you. And that is I'm going to go here to macros and view macro. And there's the format macro. Now, what I'm going to do is show you the VBA code that was actually recorded by Excel. And it's on my upper screen, so I'll get it down on my lower screen. Let's go back here to view the macro format. Edit. Let's get this. Wow. Isn't that scary? But if we can interpret it, and I'll only do a little bit of this. So that says go to A2 and select the cell, which then becomes the active cell. And in A2, type in income statement, and then type and go down to here and here and here. So for advanced Excel users, you can do some amazing things with VBA. About 10 years ago, I was an intermediate VBA user, and I created some really cool macros, but it took me a week of learning to do that. Today, the only time I do that is to go in and edit the macro or add things like loops so it goes back again, or input boxes and so on. So this is not denigrating the 10% of you that are doing VBA macros. For the majority of the world, including me, the recording macro is an easy way to automate routine tasks. So Marilyn, it's time for the last poll of the day for me.
Thank you, Alan. Certainly a challenging topic. I'm sure everyone appreciates you bringing some insights on macros. So folks, this is the second of 4 polls. And we're asking a different question. Which of these security issues keep you awake at night? It could be unauthorized logins, an application that was just installed and locked down a machine. You could have a user with admin rights. You may be able to locate incorrect storage of credit card numbers, or maybe none of these apply to you today. Doesn't mean you're not necessarily awake at night. So we're just at 80%, and thank you for your responses. I'll be counting you down now from 90% at 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Closing the poll and sharing the results with you, Alan.
Well, as many of you know, security is a big thing for me, and this is part of my research into the security issues that might bother you. More on that to come. So it's time for the handoff to Tom. Marilyn, take it away.
Thank you, Alan. Perfect. You have the calm. We see your lovely face.
Beautiful. All right. Thanks a lot, Alan and Marilyn. Hello, everyone. If you were on one of Alan's past webinars, you would have seen me or heard me giving some updates on product stuff. So that's what we'll kind of run through a bit again today. Just as who am I? I'm a product marketer for QuickBooks Online Accountant in Canada. And what that means is that it's my job to tell you about all of the latest features and how they work in QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Accountant and the overall ecosystem. With that said, I'm not an accountant. I don't know all of the accounting workflows and stuff and the intricate details, but I do know about how these new features kind of impact your world. And I've heard from many of you a lot of the requests that you've had for some product improvements. And so I can give you some insight into what's new since the last time that I spoke with you, which I believe was early mid-September with Alan's audience. So a couple new things that have happened since then. Just gonna flick over my screen here, and I think you can still see it. Yes, good. A couple new things that have happened. The first that's most notable is on the Pro Advisor tab within QuickBooks Online Accountant. If you click into that, you'll notice that we've made this a little easier to navigate. So on the top, we've got two tabs, benefits and training. So if you go into this space, you'll see right away the tier that you currently are in. I'm a Pro Advisor Gold, meaning that I have so many attached QuickBooks Online clients to my QuickBooks Online Accountant account. You can see my company ID up there. That's really useful if you're ever getting in touch with our care team, and my certification status, whether I've taken basic or advanced certification. So on this screen, I can see all the benefits of the tiered program that we've got, and you can see that we add more and more benefits as you kind of move up this program. I'll leave that to you to go take a look at. We've also included in here, made it a little easier for you to navigate through some of the resources that we provide for you to grow and market your practice, including badges, marketing tools, and some resources in here. So definitely go in and check out all this stuff. It's mostly, again, just a reorganization. And then we've also added the training tab, as I mentioned. So if you click on the training tab, it's going to load all of the available training opportunities that we provide to you to get a better understanding of QuickBooks Online and the whole ecosystem. So you can see in here, I've got some courses that you can look at online, as well as you can take some certification courses for basic versus advanced certification in class or at your own pace. So take a look at the benefits and training pages on the Pro Advisor tab. The other thing that's new, which I'll just speak to, in QuickBooks Online, you can now downgrade. If a client was on QuickBooks Online Plus version, we have 3 versions, Easy Start, Essentials, and Plus. If they want to downgrade, they now can from Plus to Essentials, and very soon we'll make it possible from Essentials to Easy Start. We're just working through some technical components of that. So if they want to downgrade, you can direct your client to the gear icon in their QuickBooks Online and go to Account, and you'll see an option to downgrade there. So that's 2 of the latest things. Just as a reminder, what happened in the last webinar that I spoke with all of you. I'm not going to go through this today, but definitely go in and take a look at the practice management space within QuickBooks Online Accountant. We've made a lot of updates to it, including templates, email and Slack notifications, ability to use it with non-QuickBooks Online clients. Go take a look. We've added tons of stuff, and it's a really neat practice management tool that's offered completely for free within QuickBooks Online Accountant. So go take a look at all that. What I'll focus on today is what I teased out at the September webinar with Alan's audience, and that is our all new tax tool built within QuickBooks Online Accountant. So I'll just walk you through kind of how we got here and then what it looks like. If you've attended any of Alan's technology tour seminars in the last couple of weeks, then you might have seen this, so you get to see it twice. So in the past, if you are someone who does corporate tax returns for your clients, this is what your workflow might have looked like. You had your QuickBooks Online clients and you need to export their file to do their year-end work, and you might have a tool like Caseware to do that. Now, about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we launched work papers within QuickBooks Online Accountant. If you haven't seen work papers, I'll show you very quickly right now. You can get to it from your client's page here in QuickBooks Online or from within the client itself. So I'll just hop into my client here, AAA Demolition Company, just to show you how to get to it. This is our year-end tool built within QuickBooks Online Accountant. I am using the French version, so bear with me. This is available in English as well. I was demoing in French. Okay, so from the toolbox up here at the top, the first option here will be work papers in French. That's dossier de travail. And if I click into that, you will see your entire working trial balance and all of the accounts for doing your year-end work. Okay, this is a little confusing in French if you're not a French speaker, but essentially you've got all of your accounts here, and this work papers is going to go and automatically assign Giphy codes to all of the accounts, which you can go and edit yourself. This is a really neat tool. I'm not going to get into it today, but go take a look, and we're making a lot of improvements to work papers coming very soon. From here, I'll head back to my practice. From here, you've got your work papers file, and it will create a Giphy code, a Giphy file for you to go and export to whatever tax product you're using, whether that's Profile or Tax Prep or Tax Cycle, whatever. So that's what it might have looked like. You've got your Giphy file. Okay, great. I'm ready to go do the tax returns. Now, we've got this ecosystem though, and our vision at Intuit is that QuickBooks Online Accountant is the one place for you to do all of your work for all of your clients. And so the missing piece of that is income tax. And that's why we are launching Pro Tax within QuickBooks Online Accountant. And it's really cool because it's finally this entire ecosystem, the data moving from books to year-end to tax filing, and the data coming back around so that you can do better year-end planning or tax planning with your clients any time of year. Really, really cool. This is what we believe to be the future of tax, just like we believe that QuickBooks Online is the future of books and accounting. So we'll take a very quick look, but before we do, just kind of, I'll flick through what people are saying. Over the past year, we've had 500 Canadian accountants that have been testing Pro Tax and QuickBooks Online Accountant, and they are finding some amazing results. They've helped us iron out any kinks. They've told us which forms and schedules to get in first, what the workflows should look like, how the interface should act as they're using this product and filling out the tax returns. And it's really neat. We're getting accountants that are telling us that they are saving 50%, 30% of their time per return. So if you're looking at your margins, that's a really, really powerful result. So Pro Tax within QuickBooks Online Accountant, it's faster filing online. And it works because the data is in QuickBooks Online already, pushes to work papers, pushes to Pro Tax. And I'll show you how that works in just a minute. Before we do, I'll give you a very quick overview. So this is a cloud-based tax return product. It's Mac or PC. And I want to really stress that this is a professional tax tool. This is not for your clients. This is for you to fill out and file tax returns for your clients, not for them to do on their own. So Mac or PC, whatever device you want, it's all in the browser. We're starting off with 69 federal forms, but we've got way more on the way. It's got a built-in auditor and e-file functionality, all within QuickBooks Online Accountant. We're CRA certified. We've got bank level encryption and daily backups, so your data is always secure. And you can trust that the calculations of Pro Tax are accurate because it's powered by the exact same engine as Profile. In fact, the team that builds Profile built Pro Tax. Really cool. Marilyn, I'm not sure if you have any poll, but I think this would be an awesome time to do it before I jump into the demo.
I agree, Tom. I do have a poll. I think would be a great time to get a sense of who's here with us today. So folks, your screen should be blue and you're being asked which tax preparation software you're currently using. Your choices are Profile, Tax Prep, iFirm, Tax Cycle. Some of you may be using something else, or you're not using tax prep software at all at this time. It's a pretty easy question. We're already at 90%. Thanks so much for that. I'm counting you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to close the poll. Do you see those results, Tom, or do you need me to?
Sure do. Thanks so much.
10% are Profile. Off you go with your rest of your presentation. Thanks so much.
Great. So that's a really interesting result. I'm not sure how many of you either are not currently involved in corporate tax returns at all, or you're using Excel or some other tool. I'd just like to stress that if you are not doing corporate tax returns, this is a great opportunity to start. We've got Mike DeLauro doing our webinars for us related to this product, and one of his big pitches is that, you know what, this is a great opportunity to make more money in your business. You can get great margins on corporate tax returns. I will get into future features, including T1 returns for Pro Tax, but for today, we're talking corporate tax. And also say, and accountants, you may not like to hear of this, but bookkeepers, if you're on the line and you're looking at getting into doing some corporate tax returns, this is a great opportunity as well. Not saying that we'll tell you how to do them, but this is a tool that is intuitive and easy to use. All right, so let's take a look. So within QuickBooks Online Accountant, to get to Pro Tax, you're going to go to this brand new tab on the left side, Tax Returns. So I'm going to click on that. All right, and here is the Tax Returns tab. Now you can see I've done a lot of the same return for my client, AAA Demo Company. But this is what it looks like when you get in. So we've got our T2 corporate space here for Pro Tax. And here are all the returns I've done so far. You can see when I created it, what year the return is for. And for right now, I can go in and view an existing one, but I'd like to go and create a new one. So I'm going to click Create New Return in the top right here. So when I click that, it's going to open an option. I can either, first I'm going to choose a client. So I've got my AAA demolition company, and I can choose where the data is coming from. I'd mentioned earlier that we've got data moving from QuickBooks Online to Work Papers to Pro Tax. And that's what's happening here. So I can see from my AAA demolition company that it's pulling in the trial balance summary. And there it is right there. Now I can go back and edit that trial balance in Work Papers, and it will automatically, or you can manually push that update straight to Pro Tax. So it saves a lot of time from when you started a return and something changes in the year end. It's very quick to go back, make a change, pushes right back in. And I'll show you what that means, what it pushes in a moment. I can also start a blank return. So if you want to use a non-QuickBooks Online client for a tax return, or you just don't want to import the Work Papers file and you want to do it manually, that's a-okay. For today though, we're going to import the Work Papers file. So you can see it's automatically put in a year start and year end. You can customize that if you'd like, but that's just what it's pulled. And it's customized a return name for you based on the return start date and the client. You can again customize that if you like. Okay, so here's my working trial balance summary. Perfect. I'm going to press continue, and what's going to happen now is little QuickBooks elves on the backside are going to import all of that Work Papers data into the S100 and the S125 automatically. So that workflow from QuickBooks Online to Work Papers automatically putting in the Giphy codes to Pro Tax automatically importing into those two schedules is where accountants are seeing that primary time savings in doing their tax returns. Okay, so here it is. I'm in Pro Tax right now, and you can see it's got the form fill on the right, and it's got my list of forms and schedules on the left. It's got a few here, and there's the S100 and the S125. So if I click on it, you can see where it has automatically imported that data from Work Papers. I can go in and edit anything I like, of course, but it saved me some of the work by putting that in automatically. Same thing with the S125. Now, if I want to add more schedules or forms for whatever my client needs, I go to Add New Form, and here is our list of available forms. I can either, type whatever I need and add them in, or I can just scroll through and click, 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 add whatever schedules I need. So I'll insert those forms, and perfect, here they are. They've already showed up, and click right into them and start filling out the return. Cool. So let's say that I'm editing this, but I really would like to just make sure this looks correct on the actual form. So on the top, there's two tabs here. There's this kind of like dots and lines, like that's our form fill. And then there's a PDF preview. So I can click on that anytime I want for whatever form I'm working on, and you can just hop right in and it'll show you that form exactly as it will look on the return that gets submitted. Really neat. It's super fast to jump back and forth. Now, as I'm editing and going through all of these forms, it's going to adjust and automatically update the taxable amounts and balance at the top under this federal amounts here. It'll also show whether I am e-file eligible, and I'll show you how it gets to that point in a second. And that's through our auditor. Just like Profile, we've got a built-in auditor. It's the same mechanism. Like I said, Profile's technology powers ProTax. So this is the same engine that powers Profile. So all of these checks and background technology going in and taking a look, making sure the numbers line up, that's all Profile that is powering this. But it's all built within QuickBooks Online Accountant. So no installs, there's no updates, it's all here. Okay, so here's my auditor. And it's right now going through all of my forms, seeing, hey, have you filled out everything? Do the numbers line up? So I've got potential issues, there's warnings, things that won't prevent, but you should definitely take a look at before you e-file, and then things that you have signed off on. So you can say, all right, I've signed off on this, I know they're okay. And I just click on that green checkbox to sign off on anything that I have checked already. Okay, so that's it. Once I've gotten through the auditor just said everything looks good or I've signed off on it, that status at the top is going to change to e-file eligible. Okay, so I'm in here and I'm just about ready to e-file. There's a couple things I want to do first. There's a little drop-down menu. If you click on this right here, I can print the return if I want it in a physical format. I can print this form, useful for the T183 to give to your client. I can import that workpapers GIF file again. I mentioned earlier, if there's any changes, it can re-import that and really quickly adjust the forms. Or let's say you're partway through and you're like, oh, you know what? This return is more complex than ProTax can handle. I can export that to Profile really quickly. It just goes into a Profile file, upload into Profile, keep working it on there. Or I can delete the return if you really want to, but let's not do that right now. Okay, so let's say I've got everything ready to go. I'm e-file eligible. I agree with the amounts up here. Everything looks good. I'm going to go to continue to e-file. So in the continue to e-file page, this is going to show us one final summary, kind of like your Amazon checkout. You're looking at, okay, here's my federal summary. You can look at the return exactly as it will be submitted to the CRA. And you'll put in your e-file number and password. And then once you've got all that in, you press this file return button. It's going to submit that document to the CRA, assuming that it's your password's correct and your e-file eligible and stuff. It's going to submit that to the CRA, and then you'll receive confirmation from them that that e-file has been processed correctly. So just like Profile, after you file this return, it locks, so it can't be edited again. There's no chance that anything can get edited, and it will give you a confirmation number at the top here, so that anytime you go back to tax returns and you want to see that confirmation number for whatever reason, you can go right back into that return, press view, and the confirmation number will be sitting at the top waiting for you. Now, I haven't e-filed this return, so of course you can't see what that looks like. So that is ProTax. And I'll just jump quickly back into the deck here. Now, that's a lot of features that we've got, and this just launched 3 weeks ago. That's why you haven't heard of it right now. We're just making sure that it's all good as we're rolling out, but things are looking great. We're so excited with how it's performing. coming up next in the next year or so are the things that we're building. Can't say exactly when these things are coming out, but I can say that they're coming either soon to a year and a bit. So if first thing we're working on is T1 returns, that's next. You're going to see that very soon. We'll have Quebec support, profile carry forward, filing for your firm, and then our dream is to one day have, and one day means the next couple years, scenario planning, where it will automatically flag when something in QuickBooks Online could potentially impact that taxable amount at the end of the year. Having that data all in the same system provides us with data insight opportunities to give to you to give better tax planning advice to your clients in a way that is not possible in any other product. It's really neat. So now we've got two professional tax options from Intuit. There's Pro Tax within QuickBooks Online Accountant, and there's Profile. You all know Profile. It's a well-established, very complex professional tax tool. It's still an awesome product, and we're not getting rid of it anytime soon. Pro Tax is perfect for you if you are a small, growing tax business, or if you're looking to get into corporate tax returns for the first time. It really fits for common T2 returns. If you need complex stuff, that's where you're going to start going into Profile. But that's great because Pro Tax has a one-click push to Profile. It's no problem if you get in there and you're like, this isn't quite what I need. So let's talk about pricing. How much does this cost? Well, Pro Tax will start off at $585 per year for your firm to file unlimited corporate returns. So $585 per year, unlimited returns for your entire firm. That's what we're starting off with. For right now, though, it's because we really haven't announced this as to everyone, as we're slowly figuring out who is this right for, how is it working. We're keeping it that offer, but it's free e-filing for 2018. So if you really want, now is the chance to go in and try it. And even when it does have that paid option in 2019, you will still be able to do the entire return all the way up until e-file, and that's when you will pay. So you get to really try it out if you're looking to take a look into it. Awesome, awesome stuff. So much coming in with this. Go take a look at Pro Tax. Where you can learn more about this and all of the cool things we've got coming next, I'll do a shameless plug here for QuickBooks Connect, coming this December 3rd to 5th in downtown Toronto. This is our big year event. It's really, really cool. We have celebrity guests, we have Intuit executives, we have the product teams that build the tools you use that you can come in and tell us how to build them, and then we will build them. It's an amazing event and an awesome opportunity for you to really get involved in your community. Come check it out, and as thank you for kind of joining on here and listening to me. You can use the promo code QBC Salmon, SALMON, when you sign up, and you'll get a discount registration. To get to the registration page, I don't have a link with me, so Google QuickBooks Connect Toronto, and you can very quickly get to the event page. You'll see it. Just before I sign off, a couple things that I want to go over quickly. The first is if you want to see the latest things that are coming out in QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Accountant, and you don't want to wait for the next one of these or to hear from me again, you can go to quickbooks.ca/released, and you will see everything that has come out. I personally update that, and it's always up to date. Go in and take a look. That's where all of the latest features have been announced. I'll just show you very quickly. Kind of looks like this. You'll see there's the ones that we went over today. You can see all the latest updates in QuickBooks Online Accountant. And last thing, I'm sure a few of you have added questions into the chat, and I will be getting back to questions that have been asked in the chat after the webinar is over by email. I think Marilyn will handle that. But I just want to be very clear that I am not the best person to help out with a lot of questions. Anything pertaining to a specific technical or accounting issue you have with your client, definitely not the right person to ask. The right people to ask are our awesome support teams. Give us a call at 855-253-1536 on your screen there, or chat with us at help.quickbooks.intuit.com. No need to write these down if you don't want to. There is a question mark button in the upper right-hand corner of QuickBooks Online Accountant with links to both of these. Click on that anytime. We're so excited to help you with whatever you need help with. Okay, so with that, I am a few minutes early, but I'm going to call that there, Marilyn and Ellen.
Great job, Tom. I look forward to seeing you on the road next week for the Accounting Technology Seminar Series, and of course I'll be at QuickBooks Connect in Toronto. You have left us with enough time for our last poll, so thanks for that. Hey folks, our last poll for the day talks about QuickBooks Online. And when was the last time you had a QuickBooks Online client added to your list of users? Pretty simple. Within the last year, 1 to 2 years, more than 3 years, or maybe never. Easy question. We're already at 90%. Thanks so much for your speedy responses, everyone. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm closing the poll. Interesting results there, Tom. All
Very
over the
interesting.
place.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for your responses. All right, Alan, I'm going to be handing over to you.
And there we go. There's my ugly face. Well, it's just about a wrap, folks. Once again, I would remind you to please complete the survey when you exit the webinar. Your reporting there, your survey results are pretty important to us as we look at particularly the comment column. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Marilyn. And thanks to all of you who have joined us today. That's a wrap.